General Hospital will revealing exciting details on Tuesday, March 18, 2025. First, Sasha sat quietly in the dimly lit room, the faint light filtering through the curtains casting long shadows on the walls. Her heart felt heavy as she prepared herself for the conversation she was about to have with Josslyn. Over the past few days, she had struggled with the decision, debating whether or not to be completely honest with him. Pregnancy had changed her life in ways she never expected. No longer was she free from worries or unburdened by the weight of secrets. Instead, she was constantly surrounded by prying eyes, whispers behind her back, and an ever-growing sense of unease. She had tried to handle everything on her own, but the deeper she fell into this web of deception, the clearer it became that she couldn't do this alone. Josslyn, despite not being the child's real father, had stood by her side, shouldering the responsibility without question. But his involvement also put him in danger, and that was something Sasha couldn't ignore. She knew that Josslyn was under immense pressure as well. People were asking questions, searching for inconsistencies in their story, and there were those who looked at him with suspicion, as if waiting for him to slip up. Sasha had considered, more than once, confessing the truth and ending this charade before it spiraled out of control. But each time she came close to that decision, fear gripped her. The truth wouldn't just alter her life, it would put Josslyn in an even worse position. He had agreed to play the role of the child's father, but if the truth ever came to light, there was no telling what kind of consequences he would face. The threats they had managed to keep at bay would suddenly become real, and the fragile protection she had relied on would shatter. More than anyone, Sasha understood that she couldn't let that happen. Despite her growing anxiety, she knew she still needed Josslyn's help. It wasn't just about physical protection. It was about survival. She had sacrificed too much, fought too hard to keep this secret buried, and now there was no turning back. But in order to move forward, she had to confront Josslyn and ask him to continue standing by her side. It wasn't a request she made lightly. She hated the idea of forcing someone into such a dangerous situation, yet she had no other choice. If Josslyn walked away now, everything she had worked so hard to protect would come crashing down. The consequences would be devastating, and she couldn't afford to take that risk. Taking a deep breath, Sasha clenched her fists, trying to steady her nerves before leaving the room. This conversation wouldn't be easy, but she knew she couldn't put it off any longer. She needed Josslyn, and she needed his protection until everything was finally settled. He was the only person who could help her keep this secret safe, the only one who could ensure the child remained out of harm's way. Yet, despite her resolve, a lingering fear gnawed at her. How much longer would Josslyn be willing to go along with this? Would there come a moment when he could no longer bear the burden she had placed on him? Sasha didn't want to think about that possibility. Right now, all she could do was trust that he would stay, just as he always had before. Second, Lucas never imagined he would find himself in such an awkward situation. When he woke up the next morning, his head still spinning from the night before, the first thing he noticed was the warmth of Marco's body lying beside him. His heart skipped a beat as flashes of the previous night came rushing back. They had both had too much to drink, Lucas, already vulnerable from the weight of loneliness, and Marco, usually composed, had let his guard down under the influence of alcohol. But the most shocking part wasn't just that they had spent the night together, it was how it had happened. Marco, completely intoxicated, had stumbled into the wrong room, unknowingly crossing a boundary neither of them had anticipated. And yet, in that moment of confusion and vulnerability, something had ignited between them, something neither had expected. As Marco slept soundly beside him, Lucas felt his face flush, not just from embarrassment, but from the overwhelming mix of emotions swirling within him. Ever since his breakup with Brad, he had convinced himself that love was something he no longer needed, that he could live without the complications of another relationship. He had built walls around his heart, keeping himself guarded against even the possibility of feeling something real again. And yet, this unexpected moment with Marco, had cracked through his defenses in a way he hadn't thought possible. It wasn't just shame or regret that lingered in his mind. It was something deeper, an unspoken connection, a warmth he hadn't felt in years. Was this just the result of loneliness, or was there something more brewing between them? When Marco finally stirred, the look of shock that crossed his face mirrored Lucas's own. For a moment, neither of them spoke, as if any wrong word could shatter the delicate silence between them. But instead of awkwardness or regret, something surprising happened. Neither of them felt the need to run. There was no immediate backtracking, no desperate attempt to brush off the night as a mistake. Instead, there was a quiet understanding, a realization that whatever had happened between them wasn't meaningless. Lucas couldn't remember the last time he had felt this kind of warmth, this kind of connection. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to make him consider opening his heart again. As time passed, their relationship began to shift in ways neither of them could deny. Marco didn't rush to define what they were or push for answers. Instead, he simply stayed, offering his presence, his understanding, and, most of all, his patience. He became a steady force in Lucas's life, gently pulling him out of the solitude he had grown so used to. Where Lucas had once been hesitant, now he found himself drawn to Marco in ways he couldn't explain. And maybe, after all the heartbreak and years of shielding himself from love, Lucas had finally found someone who could heal the wounds he thought would never fade. Third, Chase had barely begun to process the shock when another devastating truth struck him like a tidal wave. The recent revelation about his infertility had already left him feeling shattered, a cruel reality that stripped away a future he had once envisioned for himself. He had always imagined having a family, raising children, and building a life filled with love and warmth. But now, that dream had been ripped away before it even had a chance to begin. The weight of it was suffocating, but just when he thought things couldn't get worse, Brooke Lynn dropped another bombshell, one that sent his world into an even deeper spiral. With hesitation laced in her voice, she admitted that she had once been pregnant as a teenager. That confession alone was enough to leave Chase reeling, but the true devastation came moments later when an even more shocking truth emerged. By sheer accident, Chase overheard a hushed conversation between Lois and Ned, one that made his heart pound violently in his chest. As he listened in stunned silence, their words unraveled a secret that had been buried for years, one that was never meant to reach his ears. The child Brooke Lynn had once carried was not just anyone's, he was Dante's son. And the worst part? Dante had no idea. Chase felt his breath hitch, his mind racing to comprehend the gravity of what he had just learned. This wasn't just another complication, this was a betrayal, a life-altering revelation that could destroy the very foundations of trust and loyalty between them all. Dante was more than just a friend to Chase, he was family in every way that mattered. They had stood by each other through thick and thin, sharing moments of triumph and loss, always leaning on one another when life threw its hardest punches. And now, Chase held a truth that could upend everything. How could he face Dante, knowing that the man had a son he had never been told about? How could he look Brooke Lynn in the eye, knowing she had kept this secret buried for so long? The walls around him seemed to close in, and for the first time in a long while, Chase felt truly lost. The weight of this revelation was unbearable, and he knew that no matter how he chose to move forward, nothing would ever be the same again. Should he confront Brooke Lynn? Should he tell Dante the truth that had been stolen from him? Or should he stay silent, burying the secret just as it had been hidden for so many years? Every option led to heartache, and no matter what he did, someone would be hurt. As he stood there, his mind spiraling with the magnitude of it all, Chase realized that the life he had known, the friendships he had cherished, would never be the same again. Fourth, Josslyn was about to receive a harsh reality check, one that would shake the very foundation of what she thought she knew. The moment she uncovered the truth about Natalia, everything started falling into place in the most terrifying way possible. Natalia wasn't just some overbearing mother trying to control Blaze's life, she was the wife of Sidwell, a man known for his dark and dangerous dealings. But the real shock came when Josslyn discovered that Blaze was not just Natalia's daughter, she was the biological child of Sidwell as well. The realization sent a chill down her spine. Blaze, the woman Christina had grown to care for so deeply, was directly connected to a man with a reputation that made even the strongest people wary. Christina's initial excitement about her growing relationship with Blaze now felt like a cruel illusion. She had held on to hope, believing that despite Natalia's interference, she and Blaze could forge something real and lasting. But now, knowing who Blaze's father was, that hope crumbled into nothing. It wasn't just about a difficult family dynamic anymore, it was about the looming threat that Sidwell represented. If he was capable of the things people whispered about, then Blaze was tied to that world in a way Christina never could have imagined. It wasn't Blaze's fault, but that didn't make it any less dangerous. Fear took root in Christina's heart. She had never been one to back down from a challenge, but this was different. This wasn't just about her and Blaze, it was about the people around them, about the risks that came with being connected to someone like Sidwell. Josslyn, despite her own shock, could see the turmoil in Christina's eyes. This wasn't just about heartbreak, this was about survival. What if Sidwell found out about Christina and Blaze's relationship? Would he see it as a weakness, something to manipulate? Or worse, would he see Christina as a threat? The weight of the situation settled heavily on Christina's shoulders. She had wanted nothing more than to be with Blaze, to build something meaningful, but now she had to question whether that was even possible. Could she really be with someone whose past was tangled up in such darkness? Could Blaze ever truly escape it? More importantly, was Christina willing to put herself at risk for a love that now felt almost impossible? The dream she had once clung to was slipping through her fingers, and for the first time in a long time, she wasn't sure if she could fight to hold on to it. Finally, Valentine hoped that the information he possessed would prove valuable, a potential game-changer in the web of secrets and dangers unraveling around him. He had always been a man who thrived on strategy, carefully calculating his every move, but even he couldn't ignore the gravity of what had been uncovered. Sonny had laid everything out, the full extent of Brennan's illegal operations, his deep entanglement with the WSB, and most shocking of all, Josslyn's involvement with the dangerous organization. This revelation, delivered straight to Lulu, left her shaken to the core. She had been bracing herself for complications ever since she returned, but nothing could have prepared her for this. The thought of Josslyn being involved in something so perilous sent Lulu's mind into overdrive. She had known the young woman to be headstrong, determined, and fearless, but this was beyond reckless. Lulu couldn't help but question how far things had already gone and whether Josslyn truly understood the danger she was in. If Sonny was concerned enough to bring this to her attention, it meant the situation had escalated far beyond anyone's control. And the more Lulu thought about it, the clearer it became, this wasn't just about Josslyn's safety, this was a direct threat to everyone connected to her. As if things weren't complicated enough, Charlotte had finally returned home. That alone should have been a relief, a moment for Lulu to focus on rebuilding what had been lost. But instead, she found herself paralyzed by uncertainty. The tangled mess of Valentine's revelations, Sonny's warnings, and the harsh reality of Josslyn's entanglement in something much bigger than herself left Lulu struggling to find a path forward. How was she supposed to handle this? More importantly, how was she supposed to break this news to Carly? Telling Carly meant setting off a firestorm. Lulu knew better than anyone how fiercely Carly protected her children, how she would stop at nothing to tear down anyone who posed a threat to them. But if Carly didn't know the full truth, she wouldn't be able to act accordingly, and that, in itself, was just as dangerous. The weight of the decision pressed down on Lulu, leaving her feeling trapped between loyalty, fear, and the desperate need to keep those she cared about from getting hurt. The situation was spiraling faster than she could keep up with, and for the first time in a long time, Lulu wasn't sure if there was any way to stop it. Stay tuned for the upcoming episodes as the drama intensifies, secrets unravel, and the stakes reach an all-time high. Valentine has uncovered crucial information that could change everything, but will it be enough to stop the growing danger? Lulu is left shaken after learning the truth about Josslyn's involvement with a dangerous organization, and the weight of this revelation leaves her struggling with an impossible decision. How can she protect Josslyn while also ensuring Carly learns the truth before it's too late? The fallout from this discovery is bound to send shockwaves through everyone involved. Meanwhile, Charlotte's return adds another layer of complexity to Lulu's already overwhelming reality. She wants to focus on rebuilding her relationship with her daughter, but the chaos surrounding her makes it nearly impossible. With Valentine keeping close watch and Sunny working behind the scenes to dismantle Brennan's criminal empire, there's no telling what will happen next. Every move could mean the difference between safety and disaster, and every decision carries irreversible consequences. As tensions rise and new dangers emerge, friendships and loyalties will be tested like never before. Will Lulu take the risk of confronting Carly with the truth, or will she hesitate, putting Josslyn in even greater danger? How will Carly react when she learns just how deep Josslyn is entangled in this dangerous world? And with Brennan and the WSB looming in the shadows, will Sunny's efforts be enough to protect his loved ones, or is he already too late? The twists and turns are far from over, and the next chapter promises to deliver even more shocking revelations, heart-stopping confrontations, and unexpected alliances. Don't miss what happens next as secrets come to light, relationships are pushed to the breaking point, and the battle for survival takes center stage. The danger is far from over, and the most thrilling moments are still to come.